All right. Good morning, good evening. Hello, everybody. This is Lee McCroskey. Welcome to our leadership call for this week. I'm excited to be with you. And here's the news. I'm not really with you. This is a recording. So hopefully Monica sent this out to everybody and you're sitting and watching. And the cool thing is, since this is a mere recording of me. I'm not live this week. You can do anything you want. You can run around the room. You can go to the bathroom. You can take off your shirt. I don't care. It's up to you. But anyway, I'm here. I am officially, I think, in Barcelona. We're on a cruise somewhere south of there. So hopefully we made it through the weather, and that's all happening. Last week, if you recall, we began talking, or we continued the conversation about questions and the power of questions. And today, if you're taking notes, which I hope you are, I want to talk a little bit more about questions, but I want to address this topic. If you need a topic, a heading, it's this: 10. No, I'm going to give you 11. How about that? Bonus. 11 life-changing questions to ask yourself today at the end of work, on your commute home. Things to think about. So the power of choice is in your questions. Questions help us focus. Remember, there's a question behind the question, and those questions are vital to the direction that our lives take. And I wanted to throw in one more little comment about last week's conversation that we had. I know when I was selling, especially at the beginning, my first instinct was to talk. I wanted to talk because I had a script memorized. I wanted to get it out and make sure that my prospect heard all the valuable benefits of the product. So I wanted to make statements and assertions. So you got to remember this one little thought before we get into the main topic today. What you say as a salesperson, they may see as a little bit questionable. But what they say when you ask a question, or if you have a testimonial, what someone else says, it's absolutely true. So questions get them talking and keep them talking. That's what you want. You don't want to just come in and sit down and start blabbing. Okay? So again, questions are going to be your friend. So let's talk about there are sales type questions. Last week we talked about problem solving questions, like if you get stuck mentally, what you can do to get out of that state. But now I want to talk about 10 or 11, if I feel like it, life-changing questions to think about. All right? So these are internal things to ponder. A lot of the stuff we cover is very short-term focus: how to make more sales, how to be more effective, how to stay organized with your calendar, and those are all good. But I always like to make us think long range, a little bit longer and farther out. So people who reach the end of their lives that feel fulfilled, they're grateful, and they have no regrets, they do so by being intentional. And that's not one of my 11 points, so don't write that down. But just remember, you have to be intentional with how you handle yourself and your relationship with other people. All right? So let's dive in. People that are intentional have thought through a lot of these questions. Number one, how will my life be different in a year? How will my life be different in a year? Write that down. You can think about what's not perfect in your world, whether it's some kind of bad habit, some debt that you've built up, if you're feeling lonely, or anything else. But just remember, it takes about 3 weeks, 21 days, to change an ingrained behavior, right? So you've got to resolve now to invest 3 weeks in doing things differently. So what am I going to change? All right, how will my life be different in a year? Number two, this is a good one, and we're going to spend a whole session on this, hopefully when I'm with you next. And it's a simple question. What am I grateful for? What am I grateful for? You may have heard that researchers have found that gratitude correlates with better mood, better attitude, better sleep, true, higher confidence, lower fatigue. And I also read something about inflammation. So I don't know how, I haven't heard of that, but that's what the article says, Inc. magazine. So if you don't have anything to be thankful for, start with it. If you're like, what do I have to be grateful for? And you can't think of anything, start with the fact that you have electricity in your flat or home or apartment. You have running water, most of you. You have a roof over your head. There are some people in the world that don't have that, so be grateful. All right? So I would make a gratitude list. That might be a smart thing to do before or after each day. All right, number three. Number 3 of 11. What nice thing can I do for someone else today? That's a good question. What's a nice thing I can do for someone else today? You know, giving up your spot in line, helping someone. If someone drops something, you pick it up. Buying one of your teammates in the office the coffee in the morning instead of her having to do it. Maybe for some of you, it might just be calling your mother and then being present with her when she tells you about her week. I do that once a week, minimum, on Saturdays. That's just something that I do because that's a nice thing and she appreciates it. And she's about 90 years old and doesn't have a lot of people to hang with. So as her son, that's one of my roles and a goal, roles and goals. So little things can make a difference in someone else's day. And researchers have also found that when you do something like that, you do a little kindness for a client, it makes you feel happier. So that's cool. All right, number 4, let's talk about that. Number 4 is how much do I worry about what other people think of me? All right, how much do I worry about what others think? You really can't be present and be your best self if you're constantly asking yourself, gosh, did they think I was smart? Did they think I was successful? How did I come across? What I said, was that stupid? If you're completely self-conscious, you can never really know what someone else thinks of you if that's all you're doing is just worrying about it. So whatever you need to do before you go in to see someone on a sales call, just be your most confident self. Get in the right state. If you saw the TED Talk from Dr. Amy Cuddy on body language, power poses, drop me a note. If you didn't see that, I'll send you the link. But that's a great thing. You want to concentrate on what you want to communicate. You want to ask good questions. You want to look people in the eye, right? So don't worry about what other people think. Enough to, you know, it's like, oh, I heard this call from Lee and he told me not to worry about what other people think, so I haven't brushed my teeth in 3 weeks. Okay, use your head. Number 5. Number 5. What am I doing to invest in my relationships? What am I doing to invest in my relationships? And let me just share real quick. There was a longitudinal study, which simply means a study that was done over many years with some Harvard undergraduate males. And I won't read the whole thing, but the psychiatrist said something that you probably already know. Love is the key to happiness. That was one of his conclusions. He said he followed all these people that graduated from Harvard who were going to be successful, supposedly, who were going to make money and they were brilliant and all that. But he found that even if a person succeeded in work, if they amassed piles of money, if they experienced good health, all that stuff, if they didn't have loving relationships, they wouldn't be that happy. So, conclusion, one big factor is you need to have some type of love relationship in your life. And the other is finding a way, he found, of coping with life that doesn't push love out. In other words, too much work. Okay? And you can do both. You know, I worked hard my whole life and managed to get married, which shocked people that someone would marry me. But anyway, it's true. So think about that. What am I doing to invest in my relationships? Because in the end, that's the measure of a fulfilling life, your relationships. All right, number 6, we'll lighten it up. What do I do for fun? This is, again, one of the big questions that people need to think about. If you have to think about this one, if I ask you, what do you do for fun? You go, If that happens to you, your work-life balance is probably askew, meaning out of balance. You know, on your deathbed, you will never have the problem. You will never want to say, I wish I watched more TV. Man, TV, what a great way to, I mean, there's nothing wrong with vegging out and watching a little bit now and again, or, you know, watching your favorite show after you've recorded it, no big deal. But what do you do for fun to stay balanced? What do you do to stay fit and healthy? And what are your hobbies? You know, my son, he just took up painting, and he has never taken an art class in his life. That's cool. My daughter, who played piano when she was very, very, very young, just started playing piano again, you know, just as a hobby, doing something for fun to kind of expand yourself. It's all good. Okay. I decided to get certified as a meteorologist, a weather spotter. So here in the United States, when we have severe weather, like a tornado, most people go inside, downstairs in their basement. I go outside because I've always been fascinated by meteorology. And I'm one of the people that can call into the TV station and say, you know, I see a funnel cloud. It's, you know, east of here, we've got hailstones the size of 4 centimeters that are, you know, whatever. And they actually pay attention. So I'll show you my certificate sometime. But that's what I do for fun. Other things too, don't worry. All right, number 7, I think we're on. Here's a question. And it's sort of an idiom. This makes sense in English, or I think but I'll see if I need to translate. It's, am I comfortable in my own skin? In other words, am I comfortable with myself? Okay. I'd read a blog from a woman named Melissa Dinwiddie. She was writing for Tiny Buddha, and she just told the story. I thought it was pretty good. She was just having a miserable time back in high school. She was on a senior trip that they all went on a bus to the beach, and she forgot any kind of like a light t-shirt. It was really hot outside. And so she was worried that her stomach wasn't flat enough. Women, you know what I'm talking about, right? So what she did, since she didn't have a comfortable shirt, and she just wore a sweatshirt on the beach all day, sweated to death. But her friend, who was much more comfortable with herself and admitting her faults, her friend had a different problem, but a similar issue. She discovered that she had forgotten to shave one of her legs. So she just, rather than worrying about it or wearing jeans on the beach and sweating a lot, she just simply announced it to the entire bus. So her friend had a fantastic day on the beach in spite of one hairy leg, but you know, Melissa didn't. She just sweated a lot in a sweatshirt. So people who have the most fun and are comfortable with themselves in their own skin, it's a good thing. All right, so think about that. That's kind of a light question. Number 8, got a few more here. Number 8, is anxiety something that dampens most of my days? Is anxiety something that dampens most of my days? Again, we're back to studies. This is one from the US. It says nearly 1 in 5 people have some kind of anxiety disorder, which is the most common mental illness in the US, just being anxious, stressed. So if that's you, be honest, admit that and think about this. What I found in my life when I was really worried, 90% of what I worry about never happens. Have you noticed that? But we spend all the emotional energy anyway, imagining what we have no control over, and then it usually works out. So if you can remove that anxiety, you'll be more confident and you'll be much more fun to be around. Number 9. This is a useful one, although painful. What have been my biggest mistakes? What are my biggest mistakes? Here's what I found. The biggest mistakes I've made in my life have proven to be the most valuable lessons. Who, if you're still watching, who's found that to be true? My hand's up. Yeah, it's strength. It builds your character. J.K. Rowling, some of you've read all the Harry Potter series, said it's impossible to live without failing at something unless you live so cautiously that you might as well not have lived at all. In which case, she said, you fail by default. So mistakes aren't fun. Mistakes sometimes you have to apologize for. You have to ask for forgiveness from someone, which I've done. But man, they teach you very quickly. Experience is a great teacher. Yes, number 10. This one's, we talked about this at Manila very briefly when we were at that meeting. We were talking about purpose, but this is a good thing to think about, although a little bit dark. It's, what will people say about me at my funeral? What will people say about me at my funeral? You know, she sold the most Corona suits of anyone at the, you know, that would be nice, but that's probably not, doesn't have a lasting impact. That's probably not what you'd want to hear at a funeral. So think about the people you miss the most on the planet. Chances are those are people that were interested in other people's lives. They were generous people. They set a good example. So maybe think along those lines. That might be useful. Okay. And the final question, one more to throw at you to ponder. And you don't have to think about all these, but pick 2 or 3 and dig deeply, you know. Might be smart to ponder some of these. Here's one. This is what I always ask people when I was conferencing with them, especially when I was at Southwestern and I was at sales meetings. We would sit down one-on-one with people and I would ask a very simple question. How are you and God getting along? How are you and God getting along? And some people would say, well, great, blah, blah, blah. And they talk about, others would say, it's not so important, or I don't really know, or who's that? Let me just say this. All of us have a spiritual component to our lives. So I would encourage you to be open to God when he kind of nudges you. You know, I'm doing a nudge. If he kind of gives you a, you know, like on Facebook, you know, it used to have pokes. He may give you a little poke sometimes. He may whisper. He sometimes gets our attention in bigger ways. And one of my favorite authors said this. He said, pain insists upon being attended to. God whispers to us in our pleasures. He speaks to us in our consciences, but shouts in our pains. It is his megaphone to rouse a deaf world. So if you're struggling sometime, might be good to just have a little chat with God. Talk to him. If you're like, I don't even know how to begin, I have found 2 really cool websites and apps that help me every day. One is called the YouVersion, that's one word, YouVersion Bible. And you can download that and have a little something to read every day to add to your reading and do your little spiritual component. Check. And another, if you're like, well, I don't even know what the Bible's about, there's a really, really, really good series at thebibleproject.com. One word, thebibleproject.com. That is a great, and you should go check it out. It's a real interesting, it's very fun, it's entertaining, but it explains everything in very short little video clips and blogs. Thebibleproject.com. Okay, so I thought I'd throw that out to you because it's important to know how am I getting along with God, because he is pursuing you. It does say in the Bible this, it says, cast all your cares on him because he cares for you, whether you know it or not. So there you go. Those are 11 thought-provoking questions to help you get focused on your life and live an intentional life. And remember this, that you are the sum total of what your decisions make you. And regardless of where you plan to go, what you plan to do later on, you've got to begin right where you are. So good questions will help you get where you want to go. Right. Okay, well, if there's anyone still listening, congratulations. I am still talking. But I will wrap this one up. Have a great week. Next week at Easter, we'll figure out if I'm going to be back in time to do something live, or we'll sort something out. But thanks for listening. Continue to be leaders and continue to do a great job. LGFG, carry on. This is Lee signing off. Bye-bye.